I'm Madison with the Gwinnett County Public Library, and during the month of March, we will be celebrating Women's History Month. Each week, I will share a story of an incredible woman that used her talent and passion to impact society in a positive way. This week, we will walk through the life and accomplishments of artist Frida Kahlo. The famous artist was born on July 6, 1907, as Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderón in Coyoacán, Mexico. Frida's father was a Hungarian Jew who migrated to Mexico and was a notable photographer. Her mother, Matilde, was Mexican with Indian and Spanish ancestry. 3 years after Frida's birth, the Mexican Revolution began. Porfirio Diaz, the recently ascended dictator, brought back muralistic art and what some consider a renaissance of traditional Mexican culture back into light. Frida would partake in this greatly by wearing traditional native clothing and decorating her hair similar to the natives of Oaxaca, Mexico. By the age of 7, Frida contracted polio and was held back in school. However, by the age of 15, she entered a mostly male preparatory school where she aspired to become a doctor. She had quick wit and knowledgeable personality, and even despite her polio with her crippled right leg, she was a tomboy and loved to wrestle and play soccer. Her father would teach her skills in photography, and his friend began to teach her how to draw. During her time in school, Frida caught a glimpse of who would later become her husband, Diego Rivera, working on a mural in her school. She would play pranks on him during his time working, and Diego stated when he saw young Kahlo, she had an unusual dignity and self-assurance. On one of her bus rides home from school, Frida suffered a terrible accident where a metal shard penetrated her pelvis. She had surgery, some say more than 35 times. During this time, she began to paint. Some days she would paint sitting up, while other days she would paint laying on her back. Despite her injuries, Frida continued to enjoy life and went to political meetings and groups, where she formally met Diego Rivera. By the age of 22, Frida married Diego Rivera, who at the time was 20 years her senior. During their marriage, Diego began to travel to the U.S. painting murals. Both Frida and her husband stayed in the country for 3 years, traveling from San Francisco to New York. Frida would bring Diego lunch daily and would continue to learn from Diego's style. However, differing from Diego's historical-themed murals, Frida focused on herself, using her art to create somewhat of an autobiography of her feelings and life events. Some portraits depicted her pain by her bus accident, while many others depicted her feelings toward her husband. His affairs, including one with her sister Christina, led to their divorce in 1939. However, they remarried soon after, but Kahlo continued to suffer heartbreak with Diego's continual lovers. Her artwork began to gain fame when an art collector bought her 4 paintings for $200 each. She then had a show with Georgia O'Keeffe and others in New York. The show was claimed as a success, and Frida went to Paris for a show at the Louvre. Frida's art was seen by very pronounced artists, including Pablo Picasso, who said no one was capable of painting a head like those of Frida Kahlo. The Louvre Museum also purchased one of her self-portraits, one of the first works by a 20th century Mexican artist to be purchased by the museum. Frida continued to paint what is seen by many as an autobiography of her life, from love to heartbreak to pain and to her culture and beliefs. Frida painted about 200 paintings in her life, selling very few. Near the end of her life in 1953, her leg was amputated due to gangrene. The same year, she had her one and only solo art show in Mexico. A year later, on July 13, 1954, Frida Kahlo passed away at age 47. It wasn't until the 1980s that Frida Kahlo was seen as a feminist and cultural icon. In many of her paintings, Kahlo depicts women's strength and hardships, as well as her native Mexican culture. By 2006, Frida's self-portrait, Roots, sold for over $5 million, making her the highest-selling female artist, along with her work being the most expensive Latin American work ever purchased.